Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the sign that beckons those to higher places, higher realms. Sagittarius, life opens as a journey towards a definite goal. It's the 9th sign. It's fiery enthusiasm, is Sagittarius. Half horse, half man, aiming his arrow to the sky. And you've seen that, and that's very appropriate because this is the basis, raising oneself above the animal nature by directing your bead on something that is higher. Beautiful. Sagittarian is a sign of very buoyant aspiration, optimism. They have soul bounce. They're completely confident. In the Bible, the Sagittarian is described in Romans 8:28. I won't send you looking there now. And it says, all things work together for good to them that love God. A perfect example of the situation that I just went through. I have never believed that stuff. You know, all things do not work together. And I think there are some situations where you can't say that. The doctor comes out and says it's malignant. I really have difficulty with that. But in other situations, you know, your mind tells you you're going to go under, and you don't go under. In fact, you prosper. So that's very possible. See, all things work together. Sagittarius and people who are Sagittarians try to live on the earth with consciousness of the spiritual world. With a Sagittarian, they have vivid dreams, vivid visions, and that's part of their life. They really have a tremendous imagination, visualization, part of their life. They're very receptive to the cosmic Christ. And for a Sagittarian person to come in here and open themselves to the meditation is very easy because they're very receptive to this type of thing. They really love this type of thing. Body, soul, and spirit are coordinated in the person who lives in spirit of mind of Sagittarius. If there's a sign if there is one sign in all the zodiac that is tuned to the spirit in the meditation, it's Sagittarius. Okay, very strong in that way. In the lower phase now, there's a negative to all of these things. In the lower phase, the reverse mental force, and these people are characterized by their physical speed. You know what Sagittarians are noted for? They're great racers. Race car drivers, racers, they love to fly. They love to go fast. And they're very good. Racing is their forte. They move quickly. They like to walk fast. And wherever they go, everything is, you know, moving. Sagittarius rules the thighs and the pelvic area. And the sciatic nerve. So people could have a tendency to be very powerful there, or they could have a tendency to have a lot of trouble there. Pain in the back, lower back, sciatic nerve, things like that can be a problem for people who are Sagittarians. Extremely sensitive spiritually. But when the personal side is stressed, then the movement to keep going and going and going can cause a problem and a breakdown in their physical body, because the spiritual urge is diverted to physical use. And so where they would like to drive and go and go and go and go fast spiritually, the reverse is happening, and they're driving and they're going fast physically, and they can suffer a breakdown. They love the outdoors. They love outdoor sports. Sagittarians really enjoy outdoor things. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter. And from this comes a feeling for fair play. Sagittarians tend to be people who look for fairness in everything. They want to be fair to everybody. They want everybody to have a fair chance. They're very determined in whatever they do. See, when others have dropped and fallen by the wayside, Sagittarian plugs right on. Sagittarius continues. It doesn't give up. It doesn't stop. It continues its drive. They're great adventurers, you know. It's very hard for a Sagittarian not to feel at home. Wherever you drop them, they feel at home. You know, it's something new to explore, something different. And that's transforming. Sagittarius, with that aiming upward of the bow, and you see the picture, it's a transforming from the lower to the higher. And that's what the Apostle Paul says in Romans 12, chapter 2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The difficulty of Sagittarius is the same thing that arises in the other signs, but it is much more profound. And that's something I want you to put that word. Very, very profound. The difficulty that is consistent in the other signs is extremely profound with Sagittarius. And what is that? If they have spiritual direction, without a Christ goal, they wind up with a lot of problems, a lot of emotional problems, and Sagittarians have a tendency to wind up with a lot of psychic problems in the mind. And you see a lot of this in people that are Sagittarians. They like to philosophize. They're very good in philosophy. And this combined with the higher spiritual goals produces a person of deep wisdom and sensitivity. And it can be very deep wisdom and very sensitive to God. Now here's something about Sagittarius. And folks, we have so many. You have to, those of you who are home and know people in Sagittarius, you have to reach a decision if that's true or not. Sagittarius, like Gemini, is strong in speaking but weak in listening. They're weak in listening, and this is a problem. Let me show you what the problem is. Sagittarians have a difficult time. They love to enter into spiritual things, but when you get them in meditation where it's all quiet, they have a tough time sitting still because they have a tough time with silence. Tough time with silence. So it's difficult for them. An interesting fact about Sagittarius is this, and you might try it sometimes with friends of yours who are Sagittarians. They have a hard time listening to other people because something strange happens within the mind of a Sagittarian. It seems that they know what the person is going to say before the person finishes speaking. They have that gift. But Sagittarius can also use words like darts. You know, they can zing people. And it tends at an occasion to prompt ill will from the other person, because they can cut pretty deep and they can really sting people with their words. They're outspoken. They don't have any desire to hurt other people. They can see right through error of other people. They're very observant and very tuned into these things. But, you know, harsh words can have a very devastating effect. But yet when it's turned on a Sagittarian, you know what happens? They sulk, because the thing that you or I would say, it's no big deal, becomes a hurt to them. They've been offended. And they don't want to go anymore. They don't want to be around anymore because whatever has been said has deeply hurt them. You could take a Sagittarian and punch him in the nose and it wouldn't be near as bad as that word that has hurt them. And so they feel very, very bad. And if you get a Sagittarian, and if they don't agree with what you say, there's a tendency that they'll explode in a rage. Sagittarians are moved by the intuition of the light of truth. They have a constant movement that feeds above that which is the mind, above that which is the brain. And they're very idealistic people. They have strong ideals, strong goals. They get that arrow and they're shooting for something much higher. But they are overly sensitive to remarks that other people will not take too deeply. They'll take very deeply. They get hurt. They get hostile over things that other people will just, you've said so. Hey, it's no big deal. Let it go. They get very hurt. That's a lot of folks, you can find that in yourself. You may be a completely different sign, but you might have this Sagittarian influence in your own life. You may be different. You know what this is very much like? Remember Buddha would talk about the 10,000 things? You have this as your main characteristic, but you have some of this and some of that and some of the other things, and you mix them all up and you got a personality. And it's no different than baking a cake. You put a little of this, you put a little of that, and you either have a chocolate layer cake or a strawberry shortcake, but you got to put different stuff in the same way. You may be a chocolate layer cake, somebody else is a strawberry shortcake, somebody else is a pound cake, because what's gone in is completely different. Do you know what I'm saying to you? That's exactly what it is. It's all different ingredients. And it's all different influences that come from these constellations. And, this is what Buddha was trying to get about the 10,000 things. You not only have the influences that are in your head from the planets and the stars, you got the influences that are in your head from your parents and from the church and from the government. And, geez, it's a very complex thing. Right. Very complex thing. So they're very sensitive people. I'll tell you something else about them. Geminis and Sagittarians tend to be incessant talkers. And they can take part in endless chatter. They just don't stop. Sometimes, I've met, some great people. I had somebody call me the other day, and I had to say, look, I'm on my way out, and why don't you leave the message on the answering machine? Because it just doesn't stop. Very wonderful, very beautiful, but it goes on, 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 on. So I have to ask this person sometime, what is your sign? And probably he would say, she would say, Sagittarius. They have to learn to control the outpouring speech to better accumulate the innate wisdom. And that's something that I guess a lot of us have to do. We tend to want to be able to make our point, but they do it very strongly. Sagittarius produces an inner speed that can cause them to burn out. We talked about that a few moments ago. That's one of the problems. So many who should follow the sign for spiritual aspiration find its lower power in selfish ambition. They drive and drive and drive, but it's not for the Christ part. It's for the I part, the me part. But they want to open new vistas. They want to explore new things. It's a new age, and it's a new way for these people under Sagittarius. Beautiful but strange instinct lies in Sagittarius. In people who are born under this sign, there is a strange thing which many of the others don't have, and that is an innate realization of their son-daughter relationship with God. There's a constant craving to be one with God, to try to find out, what is this? I am part of something. I'm being deprived of my relationship with this God family because nobody has to. I want to find out more. I want to get closer. I want to get a part. And that's a very strong part of the Sagittarius way. They want to find out. They want to know who they are, what part they play in this. Sagittarius rules religion. And for the most part, you'll find Sagittarians pillars of the church. The deacons and the duchesses or the duchesses or whatever they are, all of these people in the church are Sagittarians. Sagittarian ministers, they make great ministers and so forth and so on because they're into religion. They're into it. They're not warriors for the most part. They're not concerned with other people's affairs, but with Sagittarius. In the lower aspect, it can be just the opposite, and instead of being concerned about other parts of other people, they can get caught up in a lot of gossip. Now remember that those of you who are Sagittarians in here, the opposite side, as you move in meditation, all this washes away. This is the beautiful part about meditation. As you rise in meditation and consciousness, you eliminate all of these negative aspects. The higher you go, the less that these negative aspects of these signs have any effect on you. See? So Sagittarius correlates the intellect with the spirit. There's a bridge that is built by Sagittarius as he pulls his bow from the earth to heaven. Many of the ancients that would speak of these things would say that the great prophets were of Sagittarians, the people who have evolved deeply in the realms of the spirit. Spirit, mind, consciousness that connects truth with the mind to God. And for those who are Sagittarius, as they walk through these doors, there's an opportunity for them that they will be untiring and nothing will stand in their way of the ascent up to enlightenment. They have that opportunity. That's what that bow pulled back means. There is an opportunity for them to pull that bow and rise with it up into the stars and up into the higher realms of consciousness. Sagittarius has a great opportunity for that. If they will only hear and understand what is theirs, because they've got to turn away from the lower forms and follow the flight of that arrow to the higher realms of consciousness. So in Sagittarius is aspiration, inspiration, the doorway to God. But they have to know so as to channel that energy upward, to let the arrow go. Not to aim it down, but to aim it upward. And then they evolve into enlightened people who are extremely strong in the aspects of divine meditation and Christ consciousness. Well, we've not only gone through the aspects of the Bible in which we've talked about the authority, but we've spent a little time and just gone on the periphery of the sign Sagittarius. There were so many things. I remember somebody said, "I'll do your sign for me," and I got a book back. It looked like the dictionary, and there are just little things that are part of all of our lives. Some are stronger in some signs and stronger in the other. You have to decide, and then you have to decide as to whether you overcome. To me, I simply feel, okay, I know what the sign says. It's interesting because it does describe me pretty well, but I'll rise above it. I'm not interested in being brought down and say, well, this is your sign, so that's the way you are. I'm interested in rising above it and say, I have no sign, but that which is God, and that which is the higher mind. Because the sign, is that which affects the person on the earth, and we must rise to be the person of heaven.